Hello and welcome to KLM Institute.
Today, we're diving into a crucial topic that's been making waves around the world: Russia's military presence in the Middle East. Specifically, we're looking at the possible shift of Russia's military operations from Syria to Libya, and what that could mean for the region and the global stage. This is a complex issue with many moving parts, and we'll break it all down for you, exploring every angle, politically, economically, and even religiously. Let's first rewind the clock a little bit and set the stage. Russia's involvement in Syria has been a significant part of its foreign policy for over a decade. The Russian military became heavily involved in the Syrian Civil War starting in 2015 when Russian forces began providing air support to President Bashar al-Assad's government. This intervention played a pivotal role in turning the tide of the war in favor of Assad, helping him retain control over most of Syria. Russia's stakes in Syria are not just about supporting an ally but also about securing its own geopolitical interests in the region, especially in the Mediterranean. One of the most crucial assets Russia has in Syria is its military bases. The Tartus naval base and the Mymene air base are central to Russia's operations. Tartus, established back in 1971, is Russia's only official naval base outside the former Soviet Union. It provides Russia with a strategic foothold in the Mediterranean, which is vital for monitoring NATO activities and exerting influence in the region. Mymene, on the other hand, serves as a staging ground for Russian operations in Africa and a logistics hub for Russian interests across the Middle East. Over time, these bases have become key to Russia's influence in the region, allowing it to project power and maintain a long-term presence. But here's where things have started to shift. In mid-December 2024, there was a dramatic turn of events. The regime of Bashar al-Assad, which had been a close ally of Russia, appeared to have been toppled by opposition forces. This sudden change has sent shockwaves through the region, and many experts have been left wondering, is Russia really pulling out of Syria? Open-source investigators, using satellite images and tracking air traffic, have reported seeing significant signs of Russia downsizing its presence in Syria. There have been reports of attack helicopters being dismantled, air defense systems being relocated, and large cargo planes loaded with military hardware. Russian naval vessels, which had long been stationed in Syria, were also seen leaving their harbor on December 11, just a couple of days before Assad's fall. These signs point to a potential military withdrawal, although Russian officials have denied this, insisting they are negotiating with opposition groups in Syria. So, what does this all mean for Russia's future in the region? The reality is that the Russian military is facing an increasingly precarious situation in Syria. The logistical and operational challenges are growing, and the once secure environment for Russia's forces is deteriorating. The Russian bases in Syria, which were once well protected, are now at risk, and there's a growing possibility that Russia might be looking for alternatives. If that's the case, where might they go? That's where Libya enters the picture. Libya has become an increasingly important player in Russia's foreign policy in recent years. The North African country has been in a state of conflict and division since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, with two rival factions vying for control. One faction is based in the west, where the United Nations-backed Government of National Unity (NU) operates, and the other is in the east, led by the warlord-turned-politician Khalifa Haftar. Russia has been backing Haftar's forces, providing them with military support and maintaining strong ties with his group. In 2024, reports surfaced that Russia had started reinforcing its air bases in Libya, reinforcing runways, building new structures, and even delivering weaponry. This is significant because Libya is strategically located and offers Russia access to the Mediterranean, much like Syria. But while Russia has been growing its influence in Libya, the situation there is still fluid. Haftar has managed to play foreign powers off against one another to avoid becoming too dependent on any single nation. However, with the instability in Syria, Libya might become an even more attractive option for Russia's military. This is where things get really interesting. If Russia were to fully relocate its forces from Syria to Libya, it could dramatically shift the balance of power in the Mediterranean. NATO has long been concerned about Russia's growing influence in the region, and the prospect of a permanent Russian military presence in Libya would be seen as a direct challenge to NATO's dominance. Haftar's permission for Russia to establish a stronger presence could alter the geopolitical dynamics, potentially leading to increased tension between NATO countries and Russia. But what are the consequences of this potential shift? Politically, a Russian military base in Libya would provide Russia with greater leverage over Mediterranean shipping routes, energy resources, and a strategic position from which it could project power in Africa. It would also solidify Russia's influence in the Middle East and North Africa, giving it a foothold in a region that has long been a battleground for global powers. Economically, Russia stands to benefit as well. Libya's vast oil reserves have been a key factor in foreign interest in the country. With a stronger presence in Libya, Russia could gain access to these resources, potentially boosting its energy dominance in Europe. It could also open up new markets for Russian defense companies, as Libya would likely need significant military aid to maintain control over its divided territories. Religiously, the shift could have mixed impacts. Syria's population is majority Sunni Muslim, with significant Alawite, Christian, and Kurdish minorities. The Russian military's support of Assad was not just political, it also involved aligning with a government that shared certain religious and sectarian ties. In contrast, Libya is a predominantly Sunni Muslim country, but the conflict there is more focused on power and control between rival factions. If Russia's military moves into Libya, it might be seen as an intrusion into a conflict that's already deeply rooted in the country's complex tribal and religious makeup. The bottom line is that Russia's presence in both Syria and Libya has serious consequences for regional stability and for global security. If Russia fully shifts its focus to Libya, it could fuel further instability in the Mediterranean, potentially reigniting the frozen conflicts that have plagued the region. Whether Syria's downfall will lead to an expanded Russian presence in Libya remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: Russia is recalibrating its strategy in the Middle East, and the coming months will likely reveal just how far-reaching that shift will be. That's all for today's update. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Russia's military strategy in the Middle East. We'll keep you informed as this story develops. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.